How many times have you started to write something, a post, a caption, an email, a video idea, and then you stopped? Not because you ran out of words, but because maybe you ran out of nerve. You looked at what you're about to say and you thought, somebody already said this. There are people with bigger platforms, more credentials, more experience. The internet is full of this content. What am I actually adding? And so you close the tab, you put the phone down, you told yourself that you'd post when you had something more original to say. And I want to talk about that today because that thought, that somebody already said it better thought, is one of the most sophisticated ways that your fear has ever disguised itself as logic. And it's costing you more than you realized. Welcome to Mind Shift Monday, family. I'm Robert Kennedy III, RK3. That's me. Yeah, this is the show where we don't just talk about mindset. We dismantle the thinking that's been ruining your life quietly. Yeah, this month we're talking about the voice. And this episode is hitting at something that a lot of us feel, but maybe we don't say out loud. The paralysis that comes from looking at a crowded room and deciding that there's no seat for you. This is for the coaches, the professionals, the leaders, the people who have real things to say but have convinced themselves that the world doesn't need to hear them. Come on. Who's with me this morning? TLE Speaks, or T. Lee Speaks. What's going on? Good Monday to you. Tone.com, 2:30. So glad you're here. Briggs, 5030. What's good in the hood? Yeah. C. Marie B, what's happening? How you doing? Lorenda Jones, good morning. How you doing, my friends? I'm so glad that y'all are here. Twyla Grigsby, what is up? So glad that you're here. So good to see you this morning. All right, listen, y'all. If you want to know when we're going live, text live to 240-557-8679. We'll send you the notifications. We'll let you know what's happening with us. Come on. Yeah, and after the show, stay with us and go further. Go down the rabbit hole with us. Dive deeper. Come on, join the after show. Level up at 8 a.m. Go to mindshiftmonday.com/Zoom. Mindshiftmonday/Zoom. Oh, I didn't put this here, but we want you to join us in our community as well. Join us in the Amplified Voice community. Look up Amplified Voice HQ on Facebook. All right. Hey, come on, let's jump on in. Have you ever heard the term that the market is saturated? Yeah, I've heard that. Let's talk about that a little bit this morning. Y'all ready? Let's do this thing. Yep. Hey, y'all, before we go deeper, let me hear for y'all. Drop this in the chat. And oh my goodness, I forgot to put my question on screen here. How often would you say you've held back because you thought what you had to say was noise? Would you say that was quite often, or not often at all? I'll repeat that question. How often would you say you have held back because you thought what you had to say was nothing more than noise? Would you say that's quite often, or not often at all? Come on, put that in the chat. Let's chat this morning. Farrar Thomas, so glad that you're here. Judy Schneidman, so glad you're here. Sugar Bob, what is good? Yes, you are good. Thank you, Sugar Bob. So glad that you all are here. I see some often. All right, Lewis Fraser P, so glad that you're here. Milton says often. Tone.com says occasionally. That wasn't one of the choices, bro. Tyler Grigby says often. Yeah, often. I gotta say, for me, it's more often than I would care to admit. Yeah, all right. Well, listen, let's jump on in this morning and talk a little bit about this. Let's talk about this. All right, I'm gonna share something right now that I don't know if it'll be surprising, freeing, or conflicting to some of you, but here it is. I'm a speaker, but I don't always want to speak. Yeah, I don't know. I don't always want to speak. There are some people who say, "Oh, just give me the mic, give me the mic," and they crave a stage. But honestly, I struggle with it. I struggle with it. Right? I don't always want to speak for a variety of reasons. Right? Number one, the preparation process is hard. The preparation process is hard. Man, every time I've got to do a speaking engagement, the days before that speaking engagement are tough for me because of the preparation process. What is it that I need to say? Am I saying it the right way? Am I saying it in a concise enough way? Am I making it too complicated? What is it that I want to say? Have they heard this before? The preparation process is hard. That's number one. Number two, the introvert in me would rather not be peopling. Yeah. True. Right? The introvert in me would rather not be peopling sometimes, right? Number three, what happens and what I walk through is, what is it that I have to say that somebody else hasn't already said? Lorenda Jones is like, you? Yeah. Honestly, there are times where I get asked a question and my mind says, but you can Google that just like I did. My mind thinks that everybody else has access to the same information that I do. And so they are able to grab what they need. What do they need me for? I tussle internally more than most people realize. Type me in the chat if you've ever had this thought. If you are somebody who speaks, who shares, who does something in the world, but you tussle, there's this tension internally that you wrestle with all the time. And to everybody else, it looks like, oh, they do this well. They're doing they're gifted at that. But internally, you're kind of like, Yeah, Dr. Lorenda, you're like, yeah, man, you speak well. Here's this thing. I have this internal argument with myself sometimes about how God has a sense of humor because he gave me this gift in something that's not always easy for me. Now, don't get me wrong. I absolutely love what I do. I do. I love what I do. I'm not one of those people who wakes up and says, oh my gosh, I gotta go speak. In spite of the fact that it's hard, I love what I do. But I struggle sometimes with the fact that I was chosen to do it. And here's something else that heightens the struggle, right? Every website that I'm on, I see and hear ads, and there's smart people saying stuff like, what to do with AI or how to speak better or how to communicate more effectively or how to do this better in business. And I'm like, ooh, that's so good. I wouldn't have thought to say it like that or thought to say it that way. And here's the part that I often miss. My thought ends with that way. They aren't usually saying something new. They aren't usually sharing some brand new opinion. They're just saying it that way. They're just saying it that way. And quite often we think, man, the world doesn't need another opinion. Man, everybody's got what they already need. There's nothing that I've got to say that hasn't been said already. I was having a conversation with somebody and I asked them why they weren't putting out more content. Why I wasn't hearing their voice more in spaces where they could be showing up. And they said to me the same thing that I'm saying to you right now. They said, honestly, everything that I would say, somebody's already said it. And I don't want to be another person repeating the same ideas. And I understood exactly what they meant because I'd felt it myself. We've been talking about this. But I said, when you went through the hardest stretch of your career, the time when it felt like everything was falling apart, whose voice did you need to hear? And they thought about it and they named somebody and they named a specific person, and it wasn't a famous person. It wasn't the person with the biggest following. It wasn't somebody who was a super influencer. It was just someone whose story overlapped with theirs in a way that felt close enough to matter. And in my mind, if that person was me or like me, they probably thought they were just repeating things that people had already heard. And they probably almost didn't say it. So here's what I want you to sit with. Here's what I want you to sit with. The people who needed to hear from you this year, they didn't need a new idea. They only needed your version of a true one. They needed the angle that only your life could produce. They needed to hear it from somebody who had been close enough to where they are to make it real. Right? You're not saying something doesn't protect people from redundancy or hearing something again. But it just left them without a voice that could have reached them, right? The world doesn't need a new idea from you. It simply needs your honest version of a true idea. And here's what we've been taught, especially in the professional and entrepreneurial spaces, explicitly or implicitly, that the way to stand out is to say something that nobody else has ever said before. Ooh, we hear the phrase or the term original thought. We hear the term proprietary framework. And we think about those as, oh my gosh, I've got to come up with something groundbreaking. I've got to come up with something brand new. And because you think that, you feel like you don't have a reason to take up space. And so we sit and we wait for the breakthrough insight, the breakthrough idea. I'll be vulnerable again. Some of my friends have asked me for, hey, have you done a TEDx? And for the longest time, I didn't do one, or I didn't even start the process of searching for one because I didn't feel like I had an idea worth sharing. What is that idea worth sharing? For my accountability people, yes, I've actually started the process. Ooh, we're going to get there. Right? We feel like we don't have a breakthrough insight, and so we wait. We're looking for the idea that hasn't been had yet. The perspective that's going to make people say, okay, I've never heard that before. Ooh, that's a bar. But that is a trap. Because the thing that moves people is not novelty. What moves people to action isn't, oh my gosh, this is so brand new, I've never heard it before. What moves people is resonance, something that resonates with them, something that's on a frequency that they can hear at that particular moment. Because sometimes you can say something that somebody needs, but they're not in the space to hear it because they don't need it at that moment. I want you to think about the piece of content, right, that genuinely shifted something in you. You were listening to, I don't know, Les Brown or Lisa Nichols, or you were listening to Zig Ziglar, or you were listening to Willie Jolly, or you were listening to something or someone. And it shifted something in you. Maybe you were listening to a pastor. Maybe you were listening to, what's his name? Saddle Creek, Rick Warren. Maybe you were listening, but was it brand new information? Or was it something that you kind of already knew? But they said it in a way that finally made it land, right? Mel Robbins has this book called The 5-Second Rule, and it's based on her TED Talk. And in that book, the idea is that you just count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and leap. Is that a brand new idea? No, it's not. But she said it at a time when somebody needed to hear it. And that somebody said, oh my gosh, here, check this out. Check out how Mel Robbins said this. And another person said it, and another person said it. And before you knew it, there was there was momentum around this thing. Was Mel Robbins the first person to count? Nope. Was she the first person to count down herself? Nope. Was she the first person challenged by? No. But she shared how it impacted her life and where she was in her life at the time. And that credibility from her life created the moment that many people were finally ready to hear it. Right? Psychologists who study persuasion and behavior, they make a distinction between information and activation. Information is data that you receive, and activation is when something that you already know becomes something that you actually do. Right? And research shows that activation almost never comes from novelty. Activation never comes from a brand new idea that you've never heard from the first time. It comes from trust, timing, and emotional recognition. It comes from hearing the right voice say the right thing at the right time. Okay? The right voice saying the right thing at the right time, at the moment that you needed it. And here's the deal. You, my friend, me, Robert, you are someone's activation, not because you have something new to say, but because of when and how and from what place in your life you're going to say it. And that's the whole point. You have no idea when the person that needs your message is going to receive it in a way that will activate them. So my point here is you hiding or you saying, nope, everybody's saying the same thing. Everybody's saying the same thing doesn't mean it resonates with every person or the people that need it. Let me give another example here. Every few years in music, there's somebody that covers a song that's been covered a lot of times. There's a classic, something everyone has heard. And sometimes those covers disappear into the pile. But every once in a while, one of them stops people cold, right? Not because the notes changed or not because it's never been heard before, but because the person singing it brought something to it that nobody else had. Something in their voice, something in their phrasing, something in the way that they sang a line, right? I want you to think about, in my lifetime at least, a big example of this was Whitney Houston singing I Will Always Love You. That wasn't a new song. As a matter of fact, when she sang it, a lot of people thought it was Whitney's song, that it was something brand new. But no, Dolly Parton originally sang it. And yet, to this day, right now, there are people that think that Whitney sang the song. There are memes on IG with right? And they think it's Whitney Houston's song. No, it was something that already existed. And yet, when Whitney sang it, something happened that had never happened before in the history of the song. Not because she invented new words, but because of what she brought to the ones that already existed. Here's what I want you to get. Here's what I want you to get. Your voice is not a cover version of somebody else's content. Your voice is the original recording of your specific experience. And there are experiences that you have that are familiar or that have happened before. Right? But your voice is specific to you. And there are people in your world who have heard the famous version of the idea that you're sitting on and it didn't resonate with them. It didn't reach them because it wasn't your voice. It wasn't your angle. It wasn't your particular history. But the good news, my friend, listen, you're not late to the conversation. You are the version that some people have been waiting for. Somebody has already heard the famous version and it didn't reach them. It didn't resonate with them. But yours is what they need. Right? A lot of us hold back because of an old belief, and the old belief says that the market is saturated. Everything that I've got to say has already been said by somebody. But I want you to believe something new. I want you to believe something new today. And the new belief is that the right person hasn't heard it yet in my voice from my life at this moment. So your responsibility, my responsibility is to speak. My responsibility is to pour. My responsibility is to share, because I don't know the moment that somebody will need to hear the word. And if I pull back from the word, then I'm depriving that person that moment. Right? So the shift is from novelty to necessity. You don't have to be first. You don't have to be the first person to say something. You don't have to be the first person to say something to a specific person. What you do have to do is be present, be honest, and be willing to say the thing from your place in your life that only you occupy. And you're not adding noise to a crowded room. You're filling a gap that only you can fill. We're running out of time. So here's what I want to do. Here's what I want to ask you to do before the next time we get together. You've got these thoughts. Farrar says, I needed this today. Yeah, I believe that. Thank you, Dr. Lorenda. I know I can surprise people when I say something. Chris says, great message. So true. Yes. All right. Love it. So here's what I want you to do before next week. And I want y'all to come back next week and share with me. Okay, here's what I'd like you to do before next week. I want you to write down the exact thought that you use to talk yourself out of something. Get specific. For some of you, it might be that the market is saturated, right? You might say, oh, Gary Vee already covered this. He already said this. There are 100 coaches. There are 100 speakers. There are 100 leaders out there saying this exact same thing. Is that an excuse? Write it down. I want you to bring it to light. Take it out of the darkness. Bring it to light. Put it down so you can see it. I don't have a credential to back this up. Okay. Yeah. Dr. Chanel Bryant messed this up for a lot of y'all, right? Listen. Bring it out. Bring it out. Identify it. Name the specific excuse. You can't dismantle what you won't look at directly. If you can't see it, if you don't bring it out in front, if it's floating around somewhere in the ether in the back, you can't dismantle it because it's not real. I need you to make it real. Identify it. Number 2 thing that I'd like for you to do. Number 2 action. Action number 2. Take one idea that you've been sitting on. One idea that's resonated with you. One idea that keeps coming back to you. And I don't care who you are. There is something that you think about regularly. And the idea keeps coming back. And the issue is that we have not sat long enough to capture it. To recognize that that's the thing that keeps coming to me. Part of the reason that so many of us miss our calling is because we don't sit long enough to recognize what's been repeated. And there's something in your space that's been repeated over and over. There's a thought, there's an idea, there's something that keeps cycling because it's for you and it's for you to share. Right? Take the one idea that you've been sitting on and ask, what part of my life makes me the person to say this? What experience have I had makes me the person to say this? Not what makes you famous, but what makes you credible to the person that needs to hear it. Your decade in a struggling business, right? The relationship that broke you and rebuilt you. The year that you got it wrong before you got it right. That's your angle. And nobody has that but you. Nobody has that but you. You're the only one that has your angle. And you're the only one that has an angle that resonates with a specific person at a specific time in their life. And you don't know who that person is. And you don't know the time. All right, so get your angle. Find your angle. Find that experience. And then number 3, third action, say it small first. You don't have to post it, record it, or publish it. Say it to one person in a real conversation and see how they respond. Notice if they lean in. Notice if they say, oh my gosh, that's exactly how I feel. That's data. That response right there is data. It tells you whether or not that idea is worth developing further. And when you hear that, don't just let it pass by. Write it down. Capture that moment so that you can develop it later on. And it's worth developing. It's worth developing. Listen, y'all, if you've been sitting on something, a story, an idea, a perspective that you keep editing down to nothing, let's talk about it. Let's jump into the after show together where we work together on this in Zoom. Come on through mindshiftmonday.com/Zoom. Yeah. We want you to find your angle, develop your story, and get it out into the world in a way that actually sounds like you. So let's talk about it. We've got an event coming up, the Story Vault Remix. Head on over to storyvaultremix.com where we'll work on just those things. Here's what I want to leave you with. Somewhere today, someone is going to come across content, a post, a video, a podcast, and they're going to feel almost reached. Like the person is saying something true, but from a distance, like it's close, but not quite close enough to change anything for them. And they're going to keep scrolling. And the moment will pass. And you will have a version of that thing said from a closer distance, from inside of an experience that they recognize. And you've been holding it back because you've been convinced that it wasn't original enough. And that's the most expensive silence that there is. Not because the world is missing more content. Oh my gosh, we've got enough content. We've got so much content. But guess what? There's a specific person that is missing your voice. That person is missing you. Your story isn't just yours. It's the bridge that someone else needs to cross into their success. Listen, my friends, join me in just about 30 seconds in the after show. Until next time, stay curious, stay grounded, keep shifting your mindset so that you can shift your life. Come on, my friends, let's do this thing together in the after show. I'll see ya.